This is Phantom Push, a podcast that explains it all.
Welcome to today's episode. Now, before we go on, I wanted to warn you that today's episode contains some adult theme and content. So, here we go. We're diving into a deeply personal and often overlooked topic: sexual frustration, particularly in the context of disability. Today's discussion is about somebody who's been living with complete paraplegia from the waist down for about 9 months now. So they're pretty much new into it now. If you don't know what being a quadriplegic or paraplegic means, it just means lack of all four limbs. Now, sometimes depending on the injury level, it can be what's known as complete or incomplete. Complete meaning you don't have full use of those four limbs, or incomplete meaning that perhaps you have some feelings but they're limited, right? You're not able to use them like everyone else, or maybe as you used to. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, while your body can no longer erect, ejaculate, or react sexually, the mental and emotional urges remain intense. They've tried meditation, distraction, and other methods to cope with their sexually charged situation, but this frustration persists. They're also facing the challenges like limited access to tools or partners. This is a raw and real struggle that many people face with disability, yet it's rarely talked about openly. So today, we're going to explore the topic with empathy, understanding, and practical insights. We'll discuss the emotional and physical aspect of sexual frustration, potential solution, and how society can better support individuals in similar situation. Now, disability can be defined as anything that can prevent you from doing things at will without repercussion. That is a form of disability. Again, limitation. That's a disability. You know this, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a context. Let's start by acknowledging the emotional toll of sexual frustration, especially in the context of disability. For this story, the loss of sexual function isn't just about physical pleasure, it's about the loss of intimacy, connection, and even sense of self, because you do lose your identity. I think at some level in our lives, everybody goes through such challenges. So it can be frustrating, it can be debilitating, but oftentimes when things are going well, we don't often recognize it. Sexuality is a core part of who we are as humans. When that's taken away, it can lead to a feeling of isolation, inadequacy, and even grief. For someone with quadriplegia, the frustration isn't just about inability to perform sexually. It's about longing for closeness, the desire to feel desired, and the need for physical release. So this goes beyond sexuality. As human beings, we are people, our existence is predicated on communities. And the COVID-19 outbreak was a prime example for that. We all saw it. So it's not something that I can say, hey, can you imagine the feeling of loneliness? We all, majority of us, did experience that. And people were losing their mind because they felt the need of belonging to that social ecosystem that is human. Dealing with disability and dealing with the loss of not being wanted by society, that is a double whammy. So it's important to validate these feelings. They are not just sexual urges. They're deeply tied to our emotional and physiological well being. To anyone listening who's going through something similar, know that your feelings are valid, that you're not alone. A lot of people won't tell you this because perhaps it's embarrassing. But the thing is, a lot of people go through it. Let's talk about the physical side of things. The inability to erect, ejaculate, or masturbate is just a major source of frustration. While the body may not respond in the same way as it used to, there are still possibilities for sexual expression and release. First, it's important to understand that sexual pleasure isn't limited to genital function. The brain is the most powerful sexual organ in our body. And with the right mindset and technique, it's possible to experience pleasure in other ways. For example, exploring erogenous zones like the neck, ears, or even the skin. Second, there are adaptive tools and techniques designed for people with disability. That was an animation I saw a few weeks ago. It's called Pentium. I believe it's a Netflix series. Pentium was talking about uploaded intelligence, or UI. And the whole premise of that show was about uploading your consciousness for when you die, or when you're getting ready to die. This way, your brain can live on. Your family members can access it. I mean, it's that yeah, that was a chapter that was an episode where, yeah, they talked about intimacy, or the husband and the wife having virtual intimacy by the living using VR headsets. So I thought that was cool. So I think that in the age of technology, in the age of technological breakthrough, the possibilities are endless for everybody who's going through something. I believe that there's going to be a lot more solutions for things that we didn't have answers to. From the area of limb replacement to sexual organ. I mean, look here. Women, right, have the most sexual apparatuses or tools available at their disposal. For some, it has gotten much better. Those tools have allowed them to reach new heights. I believe at the near future, which is like maybe just a few years, things are going to get better for everybody. I mean, I've seen where in the world of gaming, how gamers with disability are having to use adaptive controls and things like that. Again, if you're going through some sort of debilitating factor, just be patient. Technology will become the Promethean gift for humankind. Maybe for bad, but I think that the majority of it is going to be good. Is going to solve a lot of questions that we have pending. Finally, it's worth noting that sexual health professionals like therapists and counselors can offer guidance tailored to individuals' needs. They can also help explore creative solutions and provide support for people who need them. So don't forget to explore those options as well. Sexual frustration isn't just about physical release, it's about the longing for intimacy and connection. The absence of a partner or even the possibility of dating adds another layer of difficulties. We all know that dating is already difficult for anybody, even the people who have full autonomy, right? Full privilege of their body. You still have to go through the pulling process, right? It's difficult for anybody. It's time consuming. We're living in an age where it's pretty much all about looks. I mean, forget about the guy who's gonna murder you, right? But as far as the person, the guy looks good and is over 6 foot. I heard that's what women are really going by, right? So as far as they're tall and they're good looking, you get to pass everybody else, just don't make it. And those are average guys or average women, right? And let alone dealing with disability, and you're having to compete with people who are in the same bracket. I mean, of course, in our shallow society, yeah, it makes it even harder. But my takeaway from that is that you don't become discouraged. You cannot be discouraged because of how difficult it is. Remember, it only takes one individual. While most people might be interested in looks, but I believe that there's always that one person who maybe their priorities are real, isn't based on something that is superficial, something that is fabricated. They don't feel the need to belong to a collective, right? What the newspapers, not the newspaper, but People magazine or whatever those gossip magazines are telling them. They're not having to compete with their friends as to what an ideal person should. They go with your heart. How do you feel about this person? Those people are out there. People who are going to love you, whether or not you have disability or not. They're going to see you for who you are. Not because you have money, or not because you're over 6 foot, or not because you're disabled or fat, or whatever the case may be. They're going to see your true self and realize your full potential. Those people are out there. So it's a numbers game. In life, right? Everybody goes through challenges of where maybe you've taken a test and you failed it. What did you do? You don't become discouraged. You understand how important it is for you to pass that one test, and you take it again. You study harder, and you take it again. And in this particular field of just dating in general is the same thing. If you have to change up your operation, change up your pickup line, you do that. But hold yourself high. Keep your chin up. Gain more confidence, not lose confidence. So that's my take on that. Now, intimacy doesn't always have to be sexual. It can be emotional, intellectual, or even spiritual. Building connection with friends, family, or support groups can help a person fill a void in the area of intimacy. For those who are open to it, exploring non-traditional relationship or partnership can also be an open option. This might include a partner who understands and respects their limitation, or exploring platonic intimacy with someone who provides emotional closeness. It's also worth mentioning that online communication and forums can be great ways to connect with other people who share similar experiences, showing that you're not alone by the incredible comfort of that community. Just like this person is sharing with everybody else, people are going to relate to that story. They're going to realize that, hey, I thought this was me. So whatever that had happened to you have happened to many, or will happen to you, which have happened to many. So nobody's really a stranger. But when you find yourself in a state of debilitating factor, yeah, you feel like your world is lost. But we must not give in to lost. We must redefine ourselves. So let's talk about coping strategies. Mindfulness and acceptance. Practicing mindfulness can help acknowledge and accept the feeling of frustration without judgment. It's about finding peace with the present moment, even when it's difficult. That is being aware of what's happening and when it's happening and accepting it. Just like water, you have to flow with it. Fighting it will be you drowning in it. So flow like it. Bruce Lee said, "Be water, my friend." So you have to adapt to its fluidity. Second, creative outlets. Channeling sexual energy into creative activities like writing, art, or music can be a powerful way to express and release emotions. There are different ways. So maybe you're already doing it. Perhaps I someone needed to remind you to recognize that, hey, listen, you have this talent. Re-explore what you're able to do. Re-explore those challenges. Open that gate again. Find yourself. You're not a prisoner in your own body. You just haven't unlocked. You haven't unlocked that particular gate, that particular door that you find yourself lost in. 3. Physical activity. While our storyteller here in this particular episode might be a paraplegic, but there are still ways to engage in physical activities like wheelchair sports or adaptive yoga. Exercise can help reduce stress and improve overall well-being, as well as distraction from those urges. That's how people are able to find new activities or new passion that they don't even know that they have. Everybody have disability of some sort. Some of us don't even know that we have disability. But don't let disability or whatever difficulties you're dealing with in life overwhelm you, overshadow who you are. No, you have to prove to yourself that you're worth more than that. And also to your community. You see, whatever we do in this world, somebody's watching. So you have to, like I said, not only prove to yourself, but prove to your community that you're better than whatever that's putting you down. And finally, therapy and counseling. Speaking with a therapist who specializes in sexual health or disability can provide valuable tools and support. Perhaps you have some close friends who you confide in. Talk to them. People who have your best interest at heart. Those people can be useful. So don't feel like whatever you're going through, you have to go through it on your own. You have support. You have online support. You have your family support. You have your friend support. And you have professional support. Explore this avenue. One avenue might not work for you, might not be ideal for you, might not be what you're looking for. But keep exploring. There's always an answer. I believe that problems exist because they haven't been solved yet. In some instances, those problems, those challenges isn't a shared challenge. That's something that you have to solve for you. If you remember algebra, well, you're in the X factor now, so you have to solve for X. Finally, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Sexual frustration in people with disabilities is often exacerbated by societal stigma and lack of resources. There's a pervasive myth that people with disability are asexual or don't have sexual needs. We need to advocate for better access to sexual health resources, including adaptive tools, therapy, and education. We also need to challenge societal attitude and create spaces where people with disability feel seen, heard, and supported in their sexuality and emotional needs. Now, to our particular storyteller here and other like them, it's not about finding personal solution. It's about creating a world where their needs are acknowledged and addressed. It's about a world that doesn't recognize them. So I believe that together, if you're listening, you can play your small role. We have to support one another. So remember what I told you before, that everybody knows this, but we tend to forget that the fabric of society isn't in an isolated space. For us to grow, for us to thrive, for us to achieve greatness, for us to feel happiness, for us to feel loved, to be seen, to be supported, we have to support and acknowledge one another, not just those who we find exceptional. It's all about the attitude. You might not be given something of value or something tangible, but a simple acknowledgement to people who are underprivileged goes a long way. Because however you feel about them, they also acknowledge it, how you see them, what you're thinking. Communication isn't about verbal. Attitude is everything. So lifting up maybe somebody who isn't as physiologically gifted or fortunate as you are. Maybe cheering them on in their own struggle. That will help lift them up. So that is my challenge to anybody who's listening. And to anyone that's going through something similar, I want to leave you with this. Your feelings are valid, and you are entitled to feel how you feel. And your needs matter. While the journey may be challenging and difficult, there are always ways to find relief, connection, and even joy in the midst of a tumultuous situation. But in order to do that, you have to not lose your sense of being. During turbulence, right? If you've ever flown, the captain always comes down, right? By informing the passengers to buckle up, to fasten their seatbelt. So in the face of challenge or challenges, fasten your seatbelt and brace for hardship. And if you're listening and you're not in this situation, I encourage you to be an ally. Educate yourself and challenge the stigma and support initiatives and improve access to sexual health and resources for people with disability. Because tomorrow isn't promised. You don't know when you're going to find yourself in that situation. I've always stated that because you're not disabled or you're not dealing with disability doesn't guarantee that maybe tomorrow you might wake up, get hit by a car, lose a limb. Now your whole world have been altered. You're asking yourself, What did I do wrong? And I believe that people with disability go through the same thing. They do ask the same questions. So the least we can do for everybody else in our community or the outside of our community is just show support. You know, that's the least that we can all do. When they say a little bit goes a long way, there it is. Thank you for joining me in today's segment. If you have a story or insight to share, I'd love to hear from you. Let's keep this conversation going and create a more inclusive and understanding for the world. I'm your host, Victor, and this is Phantom Push. If you like this segment, I encourage you to please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I would like to grow the channel, but I won't do it without you. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.